Hi, everybody. I'm happy to see all of you. My name is Clara Lange. I'm from Andreas Hermes Academy. I'm in Berlin right now. And we are starting today with the third session of our UNFCCC capacity building series. Well, we started in April, I think, with the first one, and we were talking with some participants from African farmers organizations about the backgrounds and yeah, for the COP processes. And today, WFO will talk about the role of the farmers organizations and at which point you can interact and do some good work. Thank everybody for joining. I would really appreciate it if we can mute ourselves unless you want to speak. At first, Luisa will hold a presentation for about 45 minutes, and afterwards we have 45 minutes for the discussion. Yeah, I think that's mostly everything from my part. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clara, for your introduction, and thank you also for involving WFO in this initiative. I think this is something precious that Andreas Hermes Academy is doing, enhancing the farmers' organizations' knowledge and understanding of the climate processes is key for the future of the negotiations, but also for the future of the initiatives that are going to be put in place. I see many friends in the call, and I would like to keep this session very informal. So I will start with a PowerPoint presentation, but please stop me at any time for any question, requests for collaboration, comments. I really would like to keep it as an interactive dialogue, making sure that all of you can take the best of this, but also return something to the group according to your own personal experience. So let me now share my screen. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so as I was saying, this will be a very informal discussion. And I will start by providing some backgrounds, knowing that you have already received a couple of sessions before me where the process of UNFCCC was described, and also the history of the process, how we have reached up to here, and what's the expectation towards COP28. In any case, if you have questions on that, I'm happy to answer to my knowledge. So I would like to start from COP27. Why? Because COPs are just events. Actually, COPs, Conference of the Parties, are negotiation sessions. What's going on around the negotiation session, which is the fair, around it, is really an event. But the UNFCCC, can I ask you to mute yourself? Derek, I think you have your microphone on. Sorry, otherwise I cannot hear the others. So the UNFCCC is actually a process and does not stop from one COP to the other. We have started working on COP28 at COP27, and the full process is lasting for 1 year. And we are already working towards COP29 and COP30. So this is very important for you to know, because we have to consider planification during the year to release some space in our work plan, in our organizations, to draw our attention on the climate processes. Otherwise, when we reach COP, it's too late already because decisions are made before. So this is some milestones at COP27. And actually, for me, the biggest milestone is the farmers' position that we brought all together at COP. It was for the first time in history that the farmers' organizations that are part of the farmers' constituency joined forces and went together through the negotiations and the items on the table and took common positions vis-à-vis each and every item that, of course, impacted agriculture. And this is very important because the visibility of farmers as a global constituency is recognized according to the political weight of those who represent the farmers. No organization alone can have the same weight of a farmers' constituency group with several organizations. So for me, this was really an achievement that I hope we will repeat this year. And in fact, for your information, the farmers' constituency is already working on a new position towards COP28. Now, those of you who are in the farmers' constituency mailing list are already receiving the full information and must know that we are going to organize a number of meetings from today to COP. So please make sure that you attend. For those of you who are not in the farmers' constituency yet, please step up, send us an email, and we will include you because the farmers' constituency wants to represent all the farmers' organizations that are interested in climate negotiations. There is an opportunity to contribute, so please make a step up and let us know. So with the farmers' position last year at COP, we also managed to influence the cover decision. What is the cover decision of COP? It's the outcome document of the negotiations at COP. And the most important points, the most important results that we achieved was the establishment of the 4-year Sharm el-Sheikh joint work on implementation of climate change in agriculture and food security. Why it is important? Those of you who were in Paris in 2015 at COP21 know how much work the farmers' constituency puts into the advocacy process of requesting a mention, at least, of agriculture or food security or food production in the Paris Agreement. And indeed, we managed. That was super important because with that mention, Paris Agreement mentions food production and food security in the preamble and Article 2. With that mention, there was a mechanism in place to speak about how to implement the Paris Agreement in agriculture. And that was done through the Coronivia Joint Working Group. But the Coronivia Joint Working Group was supposed to end last year. That is why it was extremely important for us to have another working group or another mechanism that continues the work in agriculture and food production through the lens of food security, of course. So the establishment of the Sharm el-Sheikh Joint Working Group on Climate and Agriculture was a great achievement that we reached also thanks to the farmers' constituency position that we pushed in all our networks, in all the sessions, everywhere we participated. I know that you have already received some training on the Sharm el-Sheikh work on implementation, but if you have questions, just let me know. This is a very important negotiation that we are following, and that will meet again at COP28 to decide on how to implement the common agenda between climate change and agriculture. So, as I said, this is the main big achievement. And the paper also included mention to the farmers and the farmers' role in bringing ahead the joint agenda between climate and agriculture. This is very important because it gives us, as farmers' organizations, the full mandate to make proposals, to bring positions, to participate, to have representative in spaces, and we have to advocate for this to happen. So what happened from COP27 to COP28? What's going on? The first meeting of the Sharm el-Sheikh Joint Working Group was held on the 23rd of March. Then there was what we call the SB58 in Bonn, which is basically the midterm meeting, let's say, from one COP to the other. It is organized every year at COP, which is the headquarters of UNFCCC, so they organize it there. And it is basically a touch point on how we have closed the previous COP and opened the new one. It's very high level political, but also very high level technical, because it is the point in the year where priorities for the next COP are set. And in fact, as you can see, some of the priorities are very much linked to the farmers' work. Linked to the COP negotiations is what goes under the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs, and whatever falls under that agenda. At the moment, there are we will go back to these points, but there are two, three moments during the year where the two agenda between COP and the SDGs will merge, going through the process of food systems. So the Food System Summit of 2 years ago, and this year the Food System Summit +2 has clearly linked the COP28 to the food systems achievements, and we will see how. Do you have any questions so far? Is it clear? I don't see all of you, so I don't see if you raise hands.
No, it's fine, Luisa.
Okay. Thank you. So this is the agenda of UNFCCC. UNFCCC means United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And it is continuous negotiations among parties. Parties are the countries, members of United Nations. So this is a continuous flow of negotiation, and every year they organize this big event, as I was saying, but they keep negotiating throughout the years. What's going on in Dubai? The COP28 Conference of the Parties will take place from the 30th of November to 12th of December. But there are also some sub-negotiations that are held under the UNFCCC. For example, the session of the Conference of the Parties serving to the Kyoto Protocol implementation that they call CMP 18. 18 means it's the 18th time they meet. Then there is the 5th session of the COP serving the parties of the Paris Agreement, CMA. And then there is the famous SABSTA. SABSTA is a subsidiary body for scientific and technological advice. This is very important to us because SABSTA is the body under which all the negotiations on agriculture are held. So both the Coroneria and the Joint Working Group on Climate and Agriculture that was established in Sharm el-Sheikh are held under the SABSTA. And then there is the SBI, which is the subsidiary body for implementation, which is another body, another working group, I could say, always composed of parties. And this is responsible for the full implementation of the Paris Agreement. And they are going to meet from the 30th of November to the 6th of December. That was the agenda of UNFCCC. But every year, as you know, there is one country hosting the COP as a process and as an event. And every year, the country has the opportunity to organize an agenda, of course, related to climate change negotiations, to organize its own agenda, its own priorities, its own events, its own ways to influence the political agenda. And this is as important as it is the negotiations. This, Diane, can you close the microphone, please? Can you mute yourself? Thank you.
I didn't say.
So I was saying the agenda of the presidency of COP is very, very important. First, because the presidency is able to mobilize ready funds. So all the initiatives and priorities that are set by the presidency are really influencing the development of the negotiations in future years. You will have an impression at one point that they are completely detached, the presidency agenda and the UNFCCC agenda. But this is not true because they converge and the presidency is able to influence the political agenda. And we'll see how and what are the opportunities for us. For example, priorities for this presidency, UAE, United Arab Emirates, is accelerate the systemic transformation of food systems through the launch of a comprehensive package of commitments and initiatives of countries, business, financiers, technology innovators, consumers, and farmers. Guys, here we are called on board. They are setting an agenda for us as well, and it is on our responsibility to lead this agenda, or as President Ali Sak said the other day, when we are not at the table, we are in the menu. Meaning, or someone else will decide on our behalf. So this agenda is composed of 4 pillars. The first pillar is on countries. So the idea is to influence the NDCs and the NAPs. Do you know what the NDCs and the NDPs are? Is there anyone who doesn't know?
Maybe you can elaborate a bit.
Okay. So the NDCs are the nationally determined contributions, meaning the plans that each country is putting in place for implementing the Paris Agreement in all sectors, not only in agriculture, in all sectors. But of course, we have to make sure that they do it in the agricultural sector. And this is a very important point for us, especially for the national farmers' organizations, to inquire their own governments and see where are you with the national determined contributions, the NDCs. Where are you? How have you designed them? Have you included the agricultural sector in it and interventions in the agricultural sector? And how are you involving the farmers in this? This is very important, guys, for your national work. So please make sure you are in touch with your own governments and make sure that the nationally determined contributions that are supposed to implement the Paris Agreement in your countries take in due consideration the farmers' points of view. The NAPs, National Adaptation Plans, are the same concept of the NDCs, but are focused, of course, on developing countries and are focused on the adaptation parts. So what's the idea of this presidency? Is that countries include in their national plans a transformation of the food systems. And this is important because it will have an impact on you, farmers' organizations, and your members as farmers. So make sure that the process is in your hands and not in the hands of someone else. And then the second pillar is mobilizing actors that are not governments. So suppliers, farmers, traders, retailers, city, consumers, procurement agencies, everybody, all the stakeholders in the food systems. And make sure that they align to the agenda that is set by the countries. Then they want to leverage on innovation and, surprise, deliver the innovation to the farmers. So here as well, there is a big, big work that we can do to make sure that this innovation really responds to the farmers' needs and responds to the farmers' requirements in terms of keeping the productivity high, keeping the income high, having political frameworks that can really support the farmers and not that can make the farmers just targets of the initiative. So there is a lot of work that we can do on this. And of course, to implement the full agenda, you need money. So mobilize private and public financial partners to commit to scale the funding in support to national transformation plans. And in my next slides, I'll show you what I said before in a very comprehensive picture. As you can see, at the top of it, there is the framework of influencing the climate change agenda implementation in countries through the transformation of food systems. And you have the state level in the left side, the non-state level, as you can see, farmers are put at first. And then you have the platform for innovation and the financial lever. What I explained before, the presidency staff have already put into a very nice and clear slide that I'm showing to you right now. what do they want to do as a whole between in the nexus between COP28 and food systems agenda? First, there is a call on governments to ensure that food systems and agriculture become central to the climate action efforts. And this trial is already developing, is already very, very much advanced, because they have said it at the Food System Summit this year in FAO, that the two agendas are now interconnected. So this is governments already committing to this. And in fact, at the beginning of COP, there will be a World Climate Action Summit. World Climate Action Summit means governments at the highest representation. They will endorse a declaration that establish not anymore a climate agenda, not anymore a food systems agenda, but a food systems, agriculture, and climate action agenda jointly. And this declaration will come out on the 2nd of December from the summit that will open the COP28 negotiations in Dubai. Then, to move forward with the non-state actor agenda, 15 CEOs of multinational companies are already setting a non-state actor agenda that has many initiatives, 10 actually. I have selected the most important, what they have prioritized actually as the most important one to show to you how it works. But there are actually 10 initiatives that they are bringing ahead. And they're what they call flagship initiative, which is their top priority initiative, is the adoption of regenerative agriculture in large food landscapes. And this is basically establishing the principle of regenerative agriculture as a way to implement the climate action in food systems. So we all will have to go regenerative. There is no clear definition of what regenerative is. There is no clear definition of what regenerative means for the farmers, for the governments, for the companies, etc., for the consumers. For sure, we know that regenerative agriculture is that agriculture that, instead of using natural resources, they promote the renovation, the regeneration of natural resources. But this is for agriculture. What we don't know is what does regenerative means for industry, for example. So we will have to make sure that regenerative food systems transformation towards regenerative agriculture is a process that involves everybody. Otherwise, the full agenda will be on the farmer side. And then, as I was saying, there will be, this agenda will also bring, will also leverage on innovation and on the global adaptation goal, which is basically the financial leg of the UNFCCC negotiation. So this agenda on regenerative agriculture, regenerative landscape, will be launched at COP28. Actually, if I'm not wrong, they intend to launch it at Climate Ambition Summit in September, in 1.5 months. But in any case, it will start at COP28 and will last for 2 years. As you can see, we are already working on future COPs. And it will land at COP30 that will be held in Brazil. We don't know yet where COP29 will be held, but COP30 will be in Brazil. What is the objectives? Formalize action commitments on specific value chains, landscape approach, which means not anymore an approach on single farm, but at landscape level. And then there are already a number of challenges that they are studying and trying to overcome, the KPIs that will have to be set, the framework under which this initiative will be implemented, and the timeline that, as you can see, will be announced at COP. We don't know yet, but we know that will last for 2 years. And we also know that this is our opportunity to influence this agenda, in or out. So what is the final goal? Leading players in agricultural value chain commits to lead the transition of a set of key landscapes to regenerative agriculture by coordinating value chain stakeholders, which means farmers as well, and show material progress at COP30. And here I have included a number of sets and goals that the presidency has and actually wants to achieve with the implementation of the common agenda between food systems and climate. See, there are some data here. I will share the information with you, but I'm not going to read all this data. You can do it, but in any case, on the left side, you have why, what justifies this agenda, and what are the levers for a systemic change that are what I described before, which means the policy part, the non-state actor part, the innovation part, and the financial part. On your left, you have some data provided by the science on the impact of agriculture on climate. So what is the roadmap to COP28 in this common agenda between food systems and climate? Everything was launched in May. In May, there was this Aim for Climate. Aim for Climate is a huge coalition that includes 40 governments and a huge number of stakeholders that was launched 2 years ago at the first Food Summit, Food System Summit in New York. And it was conceived as a coalition to support the implementation of the Food System Summit. So because of this view of linking the two agendas of food systems with that of climate, that's the summit of this coalition was retained as a key point to start this merging process. And the second pillar, I mean, actually they had also an African Fertilizer Soil Health Summit in June, but the biggest global moment was this week at FAO when the UN Food System stock-taking moment took place. What is stock-taking moment? Means what have the countries done since the Food System Summit of 2 years ago and this year. And here, the biggest outcome of this Food System Summit is that climate is at the heart of food systems transformation. And the next global event, as I was saying, will be at the UNGA in September, where there will be also a Climate Ambition Summit called by the Secretary General of the United Nations. And then there is COP28. So there are a number of meetings and processes that are leading to COP28 and to make sure that at COP, the full agenda of food systems and climate is set already, meaning that once it's set, we will have very little margin of influence. So what we can do is now, in participating in meetings, in the farmers' constituency, preparing our own positions, holding bilaterals, so on and so forth. This is an information I have included for you. It's actually the thematic days of COP and how the COP will be structured. As you can see, the opening will be on 30th of November, but then you have the famous World Climate Action Summit. This is where head of states will meet, and this is where the declaration on climate and food systems will be adopted. Then there will be a number of thematic days, meaning that the main negotiations, the main events, the main communications will be held on these sub-items of food and agriculture. So the 3rd of December is health, relief, recovery, and peace. And this is, of course, related to the hope that the conflict in Ukraine impact will end soon. The 4th of December will be finance, trade, gender, and accountability. The 5th of December will be energy, industry, and just transition. Just transition, of course, involves agriculture as well. 6th of December will be multi-level action, urbanization, and built environment and transportation. Seaborn, thank you. The 7th of December, the COP will be closed. And then you have 8, youth, children, education and skills, 9, nature, land use and oceans, very close to our work. Food and agriculture and water will be on the 10th of December, and then the final 2 days will be dedicated to the final negotiations. And probably less activity will be available for the stakeholder. Now look at here. What are the cross-cutting themes? Always the same. Technology and innovation, finance, communities, inclusion, which is the overall agenda of the presidency, UAE presidency, and they are implementing it in all the streams, in all the initiatives, in all the activities that they are doing. I have shown to you just one initiative, which is that of regenerative food systems. But as I was saying, there will be many. 10 of them will be related to food systems, and all the initiatives of the presidency program fall under this cross-cutting themes. So there are already negotiations to increase finance. Here, when I say finance, I mean private finance, because public finance mostly, not all of it, but mostly goes to the UNFCCC agenda. So what we know as Green Climate Fund, GEF, Global Environmental Facility, Adaptation Fund, etc. Those fundings that are public are implementing the UN food system, the UN UNFCCC agenda, COP. All the other initiatives are financed mostly by private and philanthropic money. So this is what they are doing here in this lever. And then, of course, innovation that is brought mostly by the private sector. And then you have the inclusion of stakeholders and the engagement of the communities, in our case, our communities as farmers. Thank you.